This is Njambiz. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join Team Njambiz. It is absolutely free to subscribe, so support a girl's channel. Subscribe. Let's get started. Hey! So let's talk about my delivery story the second time around. And I say second time around because this is my second baby. Let's talk about my delivery story the second time around. Now, worth mentioning, the first time I had my firstborn, my first delivery, I went through a normal delivery. And with the second pregnancy, with the second baby, I went through a C-section delivery. So I will do a different video because I realized if I put all that in this video, it's gonna be way too long, too stretched out. So I will do a different video talking about my normal delivery versus my CS delivery experiences and what I prefer and all that. I'll talk about that in the next video after this one. So if you haven't subscribed, stay tuned, it's coming. So yeah, my second delivery was a C-section. So let me go to the beginning. Now, when I was 39 weeks pregnant, my blood pressure was shooting up. It was getting a bit high. I've talked about this in my previous video and my pregnancy updates, so check those out. The last video I did, the last quick life update I did a few days ago, I'll link it here. That video, I talked about how with the second pregnancy I had gestational hypertension, but it wasn't very bad, so I wasn't on medication like the first pregnancy. But towards the end, it started getting a bit high. So when I was 39 weeks pregnant, there's a day I woke up, I had a terrible headache. And I mean, like, I couldn't sleep, kind of terrible headache. I could not fall asleep. So I barely slept that night. The headache persisted throughout the day. And later that day at around in the afternoon, once the headache persisted a bit too much, I thought, I'm gonna have another long night with this headache. So I decided to go to the hospital and have it checked out. And given that my blood pressure was misbehaving, I figured it would be best to go to the hospital and have it checked out. So I went. And because I was 39 weeks pregnant and I had been induced the first time around with my first delivery, I had been induced because of my blood pressure being too high. I carried my hospital bag just in case, but I didn't think they would admit me. I did not think I would be admitted. I would be, what? I have a bit of a cold, by the way. I don't know if you can hear that. I did not think I would be admitted, but just to be prepared, I did carry my hospital bag. So I went to the hospital. My blood pressure was a bit high, and the doctor checked me out, sent me for a scan, and once the scan was back, I was admitted to to have the baby. Because what they say is you don't need to carry, if you have gestational hypertension, and I know there are people who also get gestational diabetes. If you have gestational hypertension and your BP, your blood pressure is a bit too high, there's no need to carry the pregnancy longer than you need to, because it's very dangerous for you and the baby. So if the baby doesn't need to be in longer than necessary, they will just induce and deliver the baby as long as the baby is full term. And at 39 weeks, I was already full term. So the doctor admitted me and said they wanted to induce to bring the baby to the world and reduce the blood pressure, because the funny thing about gestational hypertension is it tends to completely disappear, completely go down once you've delivered the baby. So one other thing I forgot to mention actually in my pregnancy update is when I went for the 32-week scan, The, what are they called? Radiologists? Yes, I think so. So the doctor who did the scan discovered that my baby had a cord around her neck, the nuchal cord, that's what it's called. Her umbilical cord was wrapped around her neck at 32 weeks. So when I did the scan again, at 32 weeks, they advised there's nothing that can be done about that. It's not harmful to the baby. The only time it becomes a bit of an issue is during delivery, because if the cord is too tight, when you start contracting, as per what was explained to me, by the way, I am not a professional, this is per my experience. Disclaimer, I am no medical professional. I'm telling you based on my experience and what was explained to me. So according to what was explained to me is, if the nuchal cord around the baby's neck is too tight and you start contracting during labor, that can tighten it a bit more, which would be distress for the baby and can lead to issues, complications. So the nuchal cord was not harmful to the baby while I was pregnant for the 32 to 39 weeks, but during but during delivery it was definitely something worth monitoring for the sake of the baby and to avoid any complications during delivery. Now back to my story. So when I went for the scan at 39 weeks, before I got admitted, on the day I went to the hospital, they discovered the cord was still around the baby's neck. At 32 weeks, they said it could come off. The baby could easily get out of it, but it was not very likely at that point because she was a bit big in the stomach. She didn't have enough wiggle room, but it was a possibility. It could come off. But at 39 weeks, because it hadn't, they had to also take that into account now with the delivery. Now once I got admitted, they admitted me for one night to, first of all, they put me on medication to regulate and manage my blood pressure so that it didn't go too high before they could now induce. Now the inducing only happens, which is something else I didn't know. As a first-time CS mom and a second-time mom, remember I did the first one normally. As a first-time CS mom, I didn't know they didn't need to induce. They don't need to induce you to take you for a CS. I know. Where would I have come across this information unless I was going for a CS myself? Anyway, so they had said they'll induce, but inducing would mean I would go for a normal delivery because they're essentially inducing labor. Remember, this time I wasn't in labor. I wasn't at all in labor. So they were to induce the next day, but because of the cord around the baby's neck, they advised against the normal delivery. They say it's possible, it happens, you can have a baby normally with the cord around the neck without any complications whatsoever. But in my case, they wanted to just be a bit more cautious. They recommended the C-section because of two things. I had two complications I was trying to manage. The first one was the blood pressure, and the second one was the nuchal cord, the cord around the neck. So with the two factors, they advised that it would be safer, relatively safer, because of course surgery theater has its own risks. It would be relatively safer for both the baby and myself if we went for a C-section rather than the normal delivery. But the choice was up to me because they could do both. They would have to monitor me and the baby closely during delivery if I went through the normal route, but the risks of complications were a bit higher because of the cord. And yeah, that's how we ended up having a C-section. So when they told me the choice is up to me, I thought about it, discussed it with my partner, got some advice from the moms in my life, my mom, my mom-in-law, and so on. I got some advice and decided, okay, if it's relatively safer to do the C-section, then I'd rather go that route. And that's how I ended up doing a C-section. And because I wasn't in labor, they scheduled the C-section the day after I was admitted. I was taken to the theater at around midday. 2-3 things to note before you go to theater. They usually don't allow you to eat anything. I do not know why that is. You're not supposed to eat or drink anything, including water, at least a couple of hours before theater. What was the other thing? Oh yeah, this is just a note to myself. A note to myself. When you're in the theater, they don't allow you to take external things into the theater. You go in with just your hospital gown. So I was even told to remove my hairband, so my hair was open and it was quite tedious. As you can see, my locks are very long. It was quite tedious to have my locks in a hairnet, because that's what they gave me, in a hairnet. I had to get 2 hairnets because of these locks. So I wish I had actually braided the locks to make it easier, but I didn't have that information going in, and I wasn't prepared to go in for delivery anyway. But that's a good point to note. So yeah, they at around midday on the 9th of April, which is the day my baby was born, in the same month as me. My birthday is on the 21st of April, my baby's birthday is on the 9th of April. We're just a couple of days apart. So yeah, they took me to theater. Once in the theater, they gave me the anesthesia, which is injected into your spine. Now, I had stories that injection is very painful, because it's being injected directly into your spine. But my experience with that was a bit not really what I expected. I didn't find it as painful as I had in the stories, in the war stories from moms out there. It wasn't as painful as I expected it to be. It just felt like not a regular needle, a bit more painful, but not insanely painful for me. But then again, people have different pain tolerances, so that could be it. Yeah, so there was that. I was injected that. Then that obviously numbed my belly down, which is so weird. I really don't understand how that works. It literally numbs you from the torso downwards. Your hands are still active, your head, and you're awake for the surgery, by the way, because it's a pretty straightforward surgery. So yeah, I was numbed. Then something else they don't tell you, they put a catheter in your urethra so that it collects urine, because you're numb, so you won't be able to go to the washroom for a couple of hours, which is the other thing I didn't know going into a C-section. So they numbed me, they put the catheter to collect urine. I suppose that's why they don't allow you to eat, because you also can't really have a bowel movement at the time. And number 2, that is, I think, speculation. So yeah, they did that. They they set me up in the theater. They put something to block me from seeing what was happening beyond here, at the stomach level, because I think if you see them cut into you, you can go into shock. I think I wouldn't even want to see them cut into me, to be honest. So they put something to block that, so that you don't see beyond that point, but you're awake. The anesthesiologist would talk to me just to make sure, all is well. I am awake and very, very, what is the word? Nikorada. I'm on point. I'm conscious and coherent, I think. And then what else? They got the baby out. The weirdest thing is, I thought when they numb you, you don't feel anything at all that happens down there, but turns out you don't feel the pain, but you do feel like something is being done, like you can feel them shake, because they usually shake, push the baby out. You can feel the baby come out, like it's what can I call it? Like you can feel there's something that's left your body. You can feel when they're cutting into you, but it's not pain. It's just how do I explain that? It's just a sensation, like something is touching you or something, but it's not painful at all. So that was also something I didn't know happens. You can actually feel them cut into you, but not the pain of it. You can feel the baby come out, you can feel the baby leave your body, and you can even feel them stitch you, the sensation of it, but not the pain of it. Yeah, so yeah, they delivered the baby. My baby was born at 12:32 p.m. on the 9th. So once the baby was out, one of the nurses brought the baby over to my head to say hi and declare the sex, which I did also proudly. Also proudly. And then they took the baby now for the checks and to whatever it is that they do to prep the baby after the baby is born. But I could see the table where the setup where they had the baby, I was just an eye shot across from me, so I could see the baby, I could see the nurse doing her thing while they were stitching me up. And then she came back to me with the baby and told me we have to take her to the nursery while they finish up on you, and then when you come back to the ward they'll give you the baby. So yeah, the doctor stitched me up, told me what to expect as far as the numbness wearing off. She told me it could take up to 6 to 8 hours for the anesthesia to wear off, so the numbness would wear off around the same time, which means I couldn't walk or move my legs, by the way, because I'm numb all the way to my legs. I couldn't move my legs at all. I couldn't walk until that wore off, which was in about 6 to 8 hours. She told me what to expect with the healing and all that, and then they wheeled me out. Once they finished stitching up, I was moved out of the theater to a recovery room where I was plugged onto some machines to monitor my vitals. Something else I didn't know about CS, when you come out of the theater, out of surgery, you're usually freezing so much. And it's not because the environment it's cold, your body tends to get very cold. Maybe not even get cold, but you feel cold. Maybe you're not necessarily cold, but you feel so cold, freezing cold. So I would complain about that. And even the place where they took me for recovery, there's a heater there, because I think they already know this sensation. There's a heater, they piled on some blankets, but it wasn't helping. I was freezing my behind off. I was freezing. So I was there for about an hour and a half at the recovery area where they're monitoring to make sure everything is okay post-surgery before they take you back to the ward, to the maternity ward. So I was there for like an hour and a half. Nothing eventful happened at that time. I was so bored. I couldn't move, mind you. I could only move my hands and my head side to side. I couldn't get up, I couldn't move my legs. Then after recovery, they took me back to the ward. I was set up in the ward. Remember, they have to transfer you from bed to bed again because you can't move, which was a crazy experience for me, because with the first baby, after the baby was born, I was good. I was walking around, I was doing things, you know. Speaking of delivery story, my little one is up. She also has a bit of a cold, got it from Kiran, so it's not really giving her peace where sleeping is concerned. So she's woken up, decided she wants to sleep in mommy's arms for comfort and consolation. So we shall let her join the video. Say hi, mommy. Hi. When I was taken back to the ward, they brought baby Kara in. They brought her and set her up next to me so that I could see her, but obviously I couldn't hold her because I still couldn't sit or do anything because I was numb. Now, the other thing I didn't know about the C-section is that after you've delivered, you're also still not allowed to consume anything for a couple of hours until the doctor now gives you the go-ahead. I didn't eat or drink anything all day that day. I drank water. I think I had water later that evening. Now, mind you, I hadn't had anything since morning, since 8 a.m. in the morning. So that really sucked for me. So yeah, they brought the baby, we chilled, started having visitors. Now, something else that happened to me that usually doesn't happen, and I think maybe it had something to do with my blood pressure. I started to bleed too much excessively, which made me start to crash, for lack of a better word. Hi, mommy. Which made me start to crash, for lack of a better word, based on what I've seen in all the medical dramas. I was crashing. Anyway, I started to feel hot. I started to feel a bit woozy. I started to feel dizzy, and mind you, I'm already laying down, and started to feel overheated. So I called in the nurse. The nurse came in and discovered I was actually bleeding out. I was literally covered in my own blood in the bed. And so they came and tended to me. They gave me some injection that's supposed to stop or slow down the bleeding, I think, and some other medications, and then I was okay after that. But during that time, I had actually started to even pass out. When they came in to now start assisting me, I had started to pass out, because they put me in a sitting position and I couldn't even hold my head. I'd pass out a bit, I'd black out a bit, then they'd wake me up, then I was in and out of it. I was in and out of consciousness, which was a very scary thing for me personally. I know it's not something that usually happens, but it happened to me, and it was quite scary, because I thought, oh my god, this is it, I am a goner. Because you've heard of women dying during delivery, and it's usually mostly because of bleeding out. So I was terrified for myself, but thankfully they were able to manage that. They were able to take care of that and slow it down, and I went back to normal. I was okay once they sorted me out. In a matter of minutes, I was sorted. An hour down the line, I was feeling much better. The dizziness had subsided because now I wasn't losing too much blood, and I was feeling okay. Then when they were sorting me, but I forgot to mention that when I started to bleed out, when they came in to help me, they took the baby back to the nursery. They helped me out. Then after I was feeling better, they brought the baby back. At this time, I still can't breastfeed because 1, I didn't have milk. 2, I still couldn't sit up or hold the baby because I was still numb. So that wore off slowly. Slowly, within hours. Like within a couple of hours, I could now feel and wiggle my toes. And then after a while, I could move my feet just a bit. And then with time, I got my full sensation back, and I could feel my feet properly. I could feel my whole body, and I could move. So after I could move and all that, now I was able to, they removed the catheter, which was still in because I couldn't move this whole time. So that was about 6 hours later. They removed the catheter. I could move. They encouraged me to walk around to help with the healing, which wasn't easy because after the initial anesthesia wore off, I was in pain. I was in serious pain. But then they gave me medication. They put me on a drip which had antibiotics, one of them. The other one was a painkiller, which helped me. But once the anesthesia wore off, before they gave me that medication, I was in serious pain. I was in serious pain. But after medication, it was all good. But I was getting that in the 3 days I was in the hospital, the 2 days, 3 after delivery. I delivered on 9th and I was discharged on 12th of April. So that was 3 days. The 3 days I was there, well, when they would give me medication, I was fine because you were given medication in the morning at around lunchtime and in the evening. When they would give me medication, I was fine. When it started to wear off right before they give you the next dose, pain. But it was all good. It was all good. That is why I would definitely not want to do another CS. But they gave me medication. I was doing better. I started to walk around, to move around. Who knew walking could be such a task? After I got the feeling back in my legs and all that, the numbness, wore off. Walking was still quite a challenge because you've just come out of surgery, but with time that came back. The healing has been good. The other thing is, after I delivered, I didn't get milk until day 2, that is on the 10th, because what I understood was, because you didn't go through labor, I didn't go through labor, I never went into contractions and all that, my body didn't trigger to produce milk. My body hadn't caught up to the fact that I have delivered the baby, so milk production had not yet started, which is a problem I didn't have with the normal delivery. Then after day 2, the milk came in. In the meantime, they would give the baby glucose water to keep her going and to give her energy, to avoid, what is it called, hypoglycemia, low blood sugar. Not sure what it is. Yeah, but on day 2, milk came in and she started feeding very well, and that's it. Yeah, what else? That is my delivery story. I was not a fan of the C-section, but I'll talk more about that in my C-section versus normal delivery in the next video. And yeah, that's it. That's it for my C-section story. So I'll talk about the healing and the recovery as well in the next video, because I know this one is a bit too long at this point. I'll talk about the healing process and my healing process and experience with the C-section in the next video, when I talk about normal versus CS delivery in my experience. So thank you so much for watching. That was my delivery story. Baby Kara was born on the 9th. Yes, mommy? On the 9th. She's wondering what's going on. She was born on the 9th of April. We had a good delivery, thank God, a safe one. And we are both doing great, which is good. Yes, mommy? So yeah, thank you so much for watching today's video. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, if you learned something new, if you liked it, give it a big give it a big thumbs up. Hey, hit that like button. Comment down below, let me know your experience. If you have any questions, comment down below. If you have any comments, feedback, comment down below. And if you have any questions, comment below and I will answer them in the next video when I talk about the CS versus normal. And if you haven't, support a girl's channel and hit that subscribe button. It's absolutely free. I promise, absolutely free to subscribe. It just supports my channel, which is good for me, keeps me going. So subscribe, and you can hit the bell button to get notified when I put out new videos. Yes, mommy? And me and baby Kara will see you. Yeah, we'll see you next time. Bye.